I'm going to go through a position that comes up a lot in the exercises that I prescribe in my coaching, and it's also one that comes up very regularly on a day-to-day basis. Every time you take a step, you'll find yourself in a variation of kickstand stance. So it's a very, very versatile position. You can squat, you can hinge, you can rotate your ribs, you can coil through your core, lots of different things that you can do. And you'll also see in my videos lots of different setups for it. But to just look at the basics, what we want is to keep our feet generally hip width apart. I like to say keep your feet on train tracks rather than a tightrope. I see some people losing balance because they're getting their feet too close together. And also we don't want too big of a step. So when clients are learning this position, I generally advise that you get in a position that allows your knees to be level, even though one foot staggered behind the other. So you're going to have about 80 to 90% of your weight through the front foot, and this foot is your kickstand. A little check that you can do to make sure you're in the right position in terms of balance is you should be able to lift that back foot without too much movement of the body. If you're sat back too much and you lift the foot, either you're going to fall over or you're going to have to shift and change your position. So now here come the advanced bit. So from a static position, like I said, you can squat, you can do all sorts, but you can also do lots of dynamic work as well. And the kickstand allows us to cue certain ground tensions with the floor that's going to pre-activate certain muscles. So if I take a kickstand and I think about squeezing the ground together underneath my feet, I'm going to fire this hamstring and this hip flexor, and when I release, that's going to propel me into a step. Equally, we can cue the opposite tension. So if I think about pulling the ground apart, I'm going to fire this glute, this hip flexor, and that's a good way of just pre-engaging that muscle. And it's one that I use in rotational rows to connect that posterior oblique sling, that glute, and the opposite lat as well. In terms of having your weight shifted into the front foot, this is very important because one, we want to be able to square up our pelvis so that our upper body can rotate. This starts with lifting the back heel. If I drop the back heel, you'll see either my hip shoots back like this and then I've got no stability, or I'm going to have to compensate by compressing my lateral line on this side. So we want that back heel lifted. It's also really important in rotational movements. So really common exercise, like a transverse med ball wall slam. If I do it like this, without any integration of my lower body and my anterior oblique sling, I'm going to put a load of rotational force through my knee. Instead, if we take the kickstand stance, we can rotate through the back leg because we've got very little weight on it. We've got a nice, gentle and soft connection with the ground. We can rotate, then the body can come, and then I can shift my weight from one foot to the other. That's the really crucial thing, and it's something that a lot of my clients struggle with, shifting from one foot to the other, which allows the rotation to happen without any adverse forces through the knee. So here's a couple of dynamic examples. So here you can see the rotation. I can get a lot more power and I get a lot less negative forces through the knee. This can also become much more dynamic. As you can see here, shift my weight from one foot to the other, and I'm always in a position of balance, and I'm always in a position where my foot can freely rotate. Another quick example, kickstand, kickstand, kickstand. So I'm transitioning always from one kickstand to the other because it's such a versatile position, it always gives me options in my movement.